Hello. So this is the portion where I'm gonna go over the groomable Xgen. So we touched on the left-hand side of this menu. So now I'm just gonna real quickly cover some of the brushes and some of the things you can do, and perhaps the differences between the old way and the new way. Um, so first of all, as I'm clicking on this, you'll see me kind of selecting the hair cap, just like we did before. My growth geometry, I want to be able to control the areas from which my hair is going to grow out of. Otherwise, it would just grow out of everywhere and I would have to deal with masks more than I would prefer. So I have my hair cap selected, and I'm greeted by this new interface. Looks kind of sleeker, simpler. Under the Create tab, I can create a new interactive groom. I'll call this Game Hairs maybe Main. I'll hit Apply. And voila. So at this point, you know what, maybe I'll let me just undo this. These are too fat. I'll go ahead and open up the same menu. So over here, we have our settings. So density, I'm gonna raise it to maybe, let's raise it to like 8. Length will keep the same because I kind of like the length. It seems appropriate to what I'm doing here. CV count 26 makes sense for this kind of length. We can have it a bit lower or a bit higher depending on the amount of curvature we want to have. Width scale, I'll keep it on 0. Let's try 0.06 and hit apply. So we have something like this pop up, just growing in the normal direction. If I expand the structure of this folder, you can see that we have a main node for the whole system. Underneath we have the sculpt folder with some sculpt layers. Right now we just have one. Edit is activated. A scale which will control, surprisingly, the scale of our hairs. Now I'll just dock, let's see if I can dock my Xgen over top of my attribute editor. Just expand it a little bit. Okay, cool. So by controlling the scale, we can control the length of those, which I rarely actually do that. Sometimes I touch up on it a little bit. But first thing that we can do to kind of get things going is go over the sculpt layer here. So having it active, we can jump into the sculpt brushes here, and we can start brushing our hair, in this case backwards, and you can see the dramatic effect. It's quite fast and kind of cool the way the hair is colliding with our geometry and not going through it. Well, at least our hair cap. So, and this, by the way, is controlled through my tool settings. So let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. So here's my brush settings, and here we can set collide with meshes, which is not set by default, by the way. So you will have to come in there and click on that. So again, first brush that I usually grab is the grab brush. Makes sense, right? And it's the most violent, the kind of the strongest effect of them all. So you can really throw those hairs around with this brush and gonna really change the shape of our groom in a very dramatic way. Now, right next to it, we will have the, how do you call this one? The comb, or the comb. I never know how to say this word. The comb tool. And it's a little bit softer. It's a little bit less dramatic. And both brushes are bound to the length of our hair. And now I'm just grabbing my stylus here to have more control and just more of a direct effect on the hairs. Okay, so next we have the smooth brush that smooths out any irregularities, waviness, all of that stuff, noise. I can smooth it out. Next to that we have our noise brush, naturally. So we can come in and perhaps introduce a little bit of noise in a brush-like setting. Next we have the clump, so we can clump those hairs up. Now for longer hairs, you can see that it's a bit more problematic. But for shorter hairs, it works better. Same for the split. So you see it splits them, but then the tips just go kind of crazy. So I don't use that one either. There's the rotate brush. So this one, it is more useful for a scenario where our primitives are not automatically aligned to the normal of our camera. So in this case, this is kind of useless. But if we were to make, and I'll show you right now. If we were to disable this face camera function and actually increase the width of our strands, so let's get width scale a bit higher so we can actually see the individual strands. So you can see some of them are darker, which means the normal is facing the other way. So if I go in here now and I start twisting those, so right now I have them I have my brush set on align to surface, which aligns them to surface, which is wonderful when you're making something like low resolution hair strands. The problem is, you can see here, they just crashing through each other all over the place. So if we don't have some sort of technology that would accommodate for that in our game engine, or, well, Marmoset, as far as I'm aware, does not have that. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. If I disable my align to surface right now, you can see that I can come in there and start rotating them from the roots. But I will keep them facing the camera because we are doing a workflow for a low resolution where we render in it, and as long as it's facing our camera in render time, I really don't care which way it's facing the rest of the time. So I'll go in and shrink them until I'm satisfied with their scale. This looks a bit thick. Let's do something like this, and we can increase. Let's see, where do I increase my density? There we go. So density multiplier, let's set it to, I don't know, like 44. And pray to the gods of CG that I did not blow my computer up. Are we good? Let's try 28. Let's try 14. There we go. That's much better. I like this. Okay, so around 14, we're getting a nice-ish distribution, perhaps a bit sparse, but we can increase it later. So, okay, so we have our sculpt kind of figured out. Now we can have multiple layers here. So I can introduce another sculpt layer, and on this sculpt layer, now it's in the edit mode, and I can come in, and I can make some sort of changes that I might later regret. So I can turn my other sculpt layer off or erase it. Make sure. I think I was still recording on the other one. Let's see. Yeah, let's see here. So let me come in here and do the same thing. Let's just make it a little bit more extreme so I can turn it on and off. Yeah, there we go. So the order of the way they're placed is important. So whatever is at the top would affect things last. So right now, let's say I would bring back my hair blob, and I would actually paint some curves just like we were doing before in the old school Xgen. I think I just clicked on on the wrong tool here. Let me get rid of this and bring the right tool. Let's see. Just pause this. Okay, so here's my, whoops, let me just create a little shortcut here, a little hotkey that got erased last time I had my freeze. Okay, so there we go. So I'm gonna hit run and just create some guides. Like I'm not going to cover the whole head because it's just gonna take forever, but I'll create some guides just to give you an idea how this would work. So let's say we have something like this. And then here we have a bit of a split. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep the back unfinished. So let's select those curves. Now, the way we can integrate those curves in this system would be, first of all, I would just to have it a little bit more orderly, I'll hide my blob here. I will go ahead and also hide my actual hairs at this point. And then I might select my curves, convert them yet again. Let's first rebuild them, so we can go under curves, rebuild, set a number that makes sense. Let's see, curves, rebuild, settings. So 33 is a fine number. And I'm also going to, and you see some artifacts are being created as we're doing that. And I will go and use the smooth function to get rid of some of those artifacts. And another thing I would do is go again to component mode, just like we did in class. Select my components, first CV, and just root them a tiny bit better. Let's get our manipulator to be in the center here. And maybe, just maybe, we could select our hair cap, make it live, and just try to snap our roots to the live surface and hope. Oh, look at that. Not too bad. Okay, that's fine. Get rid of the live surface right away, otherwise troubles might occur. And then I'm going under curves again and smoothing those transitions. So we have a nice and smooth transition and not like this jumpy kind of root disappears all of a sudden and a big gap. So, okay, we have our curves. They're ready to go. They've been created. We've been working really hard. We're very pleased. So here, what I will do, I don't know why I selected them because I just canceled my selection. I'll create a deformer, a modifier. I get those confused all the time. So I'm creating here a modifier, and in this case, it will be a guide modifier. There we go. It is living there right now. And you have multiple options here. This hierarchy is dynamic. So I can drag and drop it underneath my sculpt. And if I turn off my sculpt layer and bring back my hairs, this is what we get. So now I can go into my guides. Use selected curves as guides. So in order to be able to grab those curves and use the selected curves, I will have to cancel auto load here under the list menu in attribute editor. And I'm selecting my curves and using them as curve guides. This is fine. I have no dynamic links right now anyway. So apply and close. And there we go. So we have some of our hairs being affected by this new guide system and others not affected because the roots are not, the radius around the roots is not correlating to the area where those other primitives are growing out of, right? So if I reactivate my sculpt layer, it will actually take over my guide layer. But you see them clashing now. So basically what we can do in this kind of scenario is we can start from our guides. We can create like this quick groom by using our guides. And we can add them as we go. So if I'm getting into my, wait, let me update this list here. Let me double check. Where are those? There we go. So here we have a list of all of our curves that have been added, and we can add more curves if we so choose. Now, the cool thing about using the tool set that I kind of briefly showed you before, I think in the modeling lesson. Yeah. Let me show you real quick again. So if I get this this hair grabber tool set going and I hide our if I hide our hairs and I just concentrate on the curves that we have here, just like inside of Xgen, and you can see one of the curves is kind of messed up here. I can actually go in and erase some of those CVs and rebuild it, by the way. So if I want to be able to have some in-betweens, let's rebuild, very good. If I want to have some in-betweens, I have to have them correlate in their number of CVs. So let's say I want to have some in-betweens here, I can do it like that. Now, unlike Xgen, you can't just click on the surface and it would create a new shape for you. You kind of have to have two hairs, and in between them you would be able to fill those gaps. So you would still have to enter there and kind of paint those by hand, but in between them you can use the tool to just save on some time and be able to get those you know, programmatically, or how do you call it, procedurally done. Yeah, so that's another part of the process. But once you're finished with this, and let's say, let's just ignore the guys for now, bring back our hair, and reactivate our sculpt layers. And the way I would approach this, if you had like shorter hair on the sides here, this would be a separate hair system. So first of all, how can I remove some of those hairs? Let's just get rid of our guides for now. So I'll just go in and erase just the whole thing. Just bang, done. No need for that. I'll group my curves and hide them. And now I will come in and I will start painting a map on our geometry. So we have a density brush and we have a density mask. So we can mask out the certain areas within this Groom. Okay, so I'm going to create a map, and this one creates actual UV maps. So actually, before I create a map, I will do something that I forgot to do, but in this case, it's not too bad. It's not horrible, because what I can do here, I can actually change my UVs after the fact. So create camera based, and then I can come in, unfold, unfold, unfold. I said unfold. Strange. Why like this? So weird. Oh, there we go. There we go. That makes more sense. It's like, why would you behave like that? Okay, cool. So, move it a bit, scale it up, close it down, and we have proper UVs. Now we can come in and start painting our paints. So, density mask, set a folder that makes sense. I'm gonna hit create. I already have one created, but I'll create a new one just to show you what I'm doing. And isolate, get rid of my previous beautiful painting that I've made before, and start painting some new stuff. Now you'll notice what we're trying to do here currently is make the hairs disappear in that area, and what you will notice is they actually don't really want to disappear. Why? Well, I found that using instead of using our artisan paint, we can use paint effects and increase the scale a little bit, and you'll notice that it actually works much better. I'm saying much better, but then it like totally doesn't remove some of the hairs. It supposedly works much better at removing those hairs. Like here, we kind of are not getting them removed for whatever reason. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, but the trade-off for this, of course, it's a much slower tool, right? And yeah, by holding control, you'll be able to reintroduce some of those back in. So again, of course, depending on the type of hairstyle, you might want to have multiple hair systems appear in different places here. So you might want to actually go in and remove some of those, and of course, also just to keep Let's get, by the way, you can control symmetry here, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Yeah, screen projection, reflection. Yeah, reflection, not screen projection. And then we can just get rid of some of that. No, that's not good. Undo. Get rid of some of that. Now, if you find yourself not being able to get a totally black color and some of your hairs are remaining in place, you can browse your way to where that texture lives and fix it up in Photoshop. Just get like perfectly black values there, and it will completely remove those hairs. Because you see right now, we're getting values that are not perfectly black, and you can see the result. Now, if it really slows down, like right now, I'm feeling like this is a little bit too slow for me to comfortably work. So I might want to actually go in and reduce the amount of hairs I'm working with. Okay, so we painted some of those out. Let's imagine we went into Photoshop. I'm not going to do this right now, but let's imagine I did. Let's all imagine that. And now what I can do is, by selecting the same geometry, I can go under Create, Interactive Groom Splines, and here it's gonna be game hairs. I don't know why this is game hairs. These are not game hairs. This is going to be... this is going to be... what am I gonna call this? CGI hairs short. And these guys are going to be like 1 in length. And actually, no, that's too sparse, way too sparse. Like you can change this after the fact, but why? So let's do this again. So 1, and then density, let's put it on like 22, and let's see what happens. Oh yeah, and CV count, let's just keep it at like 6. Okay, so you see we have our main, and now we have our short, and we can change the names freely here, unlike the old one. Same things apply, so width scale, we can take it much lower, and we can increase the density, or can we? There we go. I went a little bit too crazy here. There we go. That makes more sense. And we can start we can start introducing some directionality. Now, another thing I wanted to share with you is other modifiers. So we can have our clumps. It's a bit strong, I would say. But, you know, you can control those just like you would control... Oh, what did I do? There we go. So you can control those just like you can control anything else. So there's our clump. And we can be like, okay, well, I don't want it to be like in full effect. You can maybe, I don't know. There's all kinds of interesting little tricks you can apply to them. Reserve length. Randomness is in full effect. Density, you can play around with how sparse they are. So let's put it on like 3, maybe 6. Something like that. Density mask, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Radius variance, sure. Map subdivision level, blah blah blah. And then we have a whole bunch of other things that are controllable through those parameters here. So we can give them a bit of a curl. Yeah, but yeah, next we can come in, we have a sculpt layer, we can edit that sculpt layer, go back into Xgen, start sculpting those guys. Get bigger. So again, the order of our nodes is important. So if my clump was underneath my sculpt, this would look different. You see, I could break those clumps now into individual hairs again. And if I get my clump to be over my sculpt, I would have those guys nicely preserved. And we could also, again, paint out, obviously, the areas where we don't want it to appear. So I would just keep it here. What else can I share with you here? So there's a whole bunch of other modifiers. We have our guides, obviously noise. We can use expressions here, but not as comfortably as we could use in previous places, in previous, in the old Xgen. So let me remember. I'm gonna pause for a second. Okay, that was quick. So basically, you can set expression through here. And you can use, I'm pretty sure, the same expressions for those to work. Haven't really dealt with it too much, but yeah, I played with expressions in the new Xgen. They work, it's just not as powerful. But yeah, it's useful for for high-resolution hair, and it can be also useful for your hair cap process. Another thing I'm going to touch on in this video is the flattening and the rendering of the hair cap. So for those of you doing game res, you will want to flatten your hair cap, and you would need a script for that I will share with you.